Welcome to the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. Now, here's your host, author, speaker, entrepreneur, Cornell Jermaine.
Thank you for joining us today. We have a special guest. She is an author, speaker, and coach who educates people on how to obtain and maintain healthy credit. Please help me welcome Miss Jeanne Kelly. Jeanne, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. Now, you're the author of the 90-Day Credit Challenge and the Credit Makeover, and the founder of the Kelly Group, a firm that's dedicated to educating people about credit. Where did your passion for credit come from? How did you get into this space of the industry?
Well, I got into it by accident, and it was basically because I had bad credit, and I didn't know it. I was going through a divorce, and when I wanted to, buy my ex-husband out of the house, that's when I realized I had all these credit issues that I had no idea about. So, all of a sudden I couldn't get the mortgage. My financial security was ripped away without really even knowing it. So then I started working on my own credit, researching the industry, and after the pain that I went through, it took me years, to figure it out and to work on my own credit. And I said, I have a way that's much easier so I can share that information with other people.
Now, do you find in your experience that many women fall into this trap where they're, in a space where the husband does everything and they just kind of take care of the domestic needs, and so all of a sudden something happens and they have to kind of learn finances and credit? Do you find that that's common with women?
It is common. I mean, hopefully we're changing things and we're, paying more attention. But at the time, I just really was not. I was one of those people, and I have seen that, all the time. I'm having people come to me, mostly a lot of women, saying they just didn't pay attention. And so that's, unfortunate. But once you start paying attention, no matter where you are, I always tell people, you can build healthy credit again. So even if it has happened to you and they're listening to your show today, you can start paying attention today and refocusing today and start in a positive direction today.
Well, that's what we really come for, because we want to give people hope, because there's so many people that are dealing with this type of issue that have had to deal with bankruptcies and et cetera. So we want to really give them a strong basis on how to move forward. Now, in your book, Credit Makeover, you cover everything there is to know about credit and how to improve it. In the first chapter, you talk about it's time for a makeover, 4 specific rules, and number 4 really stuck out to me. And the rule was know your rights. Share with us, what exactly does that mean as it pertains to credit?
Well, you do have to pay attention. A lot of times people feel like they'll find something on their credit report that's completely wrong, and they feel like they'll even try to get it resolved, and they can't seem to get it resolved. And you have to know your rights. Look up, the laws regarding the credit and what needs to be done for you. I mean, the number one thing you need to know is you can get a free credit report every year. And you definitely should be doing that, because even if you have a monitoring service, no one can look at your credit better than yourself. Only you know. Like, I wouldn't know if I was looking at your credit report, if there's a new account on there and it didn't belong to you. I wouldn't know if that's yours or not. Only you would know, or street addresses that you've lived at. And also, a lot of people don't realize when they pull their own credit, it does not hurt their credit score. And there's a lot of confusion over that. People think, I shouldn't pull it because I don't want to drop my credit score. And that's not the case if you are requesting it to review it and make sure that it's correct.
As a consumer, there are rights that we have as it pertains to credit, because most times we as consumers consider the creditor to be the chief in the industry or the business transaction. But really, as a consumer, we have rights too, and one of those is to get your annual report and make sure everything on it lines up with what's really going on. So things like, what would you say, address, and what other things should they look for specifically when they get their report?
Yeah, Yeah, well, I say look at everything. I always say grab out that highlighter and highlight anything that's wrong. And I used to not pay attention because I'm so driven with the credit score. I used to not pay attention to the little details, but I've learned that everything should be 100% correct. And let's say, because on your credit report you do have your address, your telephone number, where you've worked, that should all be correct, because if it's not correct, sometimes you can realize that maybe a new account will appear that doesn't belong to you because somehow there's a mix-up or you've been a victim of identity theft. So even those small details that you don't think are important should be correct. How you spell your name, to the accounts that belong to you, to the balances that are there, and definitely for people like myself when I was going through the divorce, I didn't even think about an account that I was joined with my ex-husband that was in good standing. I just never even thought about closing it. And then what happens if a year down the road, 2 years down the road, he uses that account and he has a late payment? I'm still jointly responsible because I never closed the account. So you have to even pay attention what accounts belong to me alone, what accounts am I jointly on, just absolutely everything. Is there a collection account on there that you don't know what it is? Is there a public record? Look into everything. And once you highlight it, contact the credit bureau and tell them what the dispute is and go from there. Let them first do the work. And then in the meantime, you can roll up your sleeves and start calling those companies as well.
That's right. Now, in the space of bankruptcies and different things, maybe even student loans, and is there a way that a person can correct those items on their credit report?
Well, a lot of times I have people say that, like, oh, I had a bankruptcy, but I want it off my credit report. The thing is, if you had the bankruptcy and it's accurate, it's going to stay on your credit report if it's accurate. But again, don't be afraid of that. I have a lot of people, number one, bankruptcy or a short sale or a foreclosure, and they say, oh, I'm going to just walk away from credit now. That's the biggest mistake. If you know that you've had something like that on your credit report, a negative item, well, balance it with some new healthy credit. Put on a good new account. Even if it's a secured credit card, if you put that on and you use that in a healthy way, not maxing it out, paying it on time, do you know in 12 months from now how much that can help your credit score? You don't want to just sit there with all the old negative stuff. Start rebuilding. That's definitely the key. And not beat yourself up, not beat yourself up over, the bankruptcy, or if you unfortunately needed to have a foreclosure, whatever it may be. If it happens, okay, that's going to be on my credit report, but let me focus again and just not stay at that bottom, having the low score. Let me focus on trying to improve it.
In another chapter in your book, you cover 5 credit makeover steps. And step number 3, you say, know how your credit score can cost you. Give us an example. How can our credit score cost us?
Okay, so perfect example. You could even go, I love the My FICO website because they even have a calculator on their website that can show you all different types of loans. So let's just say a mortgage. And let's say you put in there, that your credit score is around a 600 or a 680 or whatever it may be, and that you want to borrow $200,000. It will give you it'll show you on the calculator approximately, it's not going to be exact what the interest rate is of that day, but it can basically show you, well, if your score is here, your monthly payment would be this much. Your interest on the loan would be this much. Over 30 years, it'll be this much. And you can compare it to if your score went up, how much is that? And so you can, I picked the house because it's such a major item that you can, I've had clients tell me just last week I hung up the phone with someone who said that because of a mistake on his credit report, he had one late payment that was a mistake, but it was recent. It just happened 2 months earlier, so it really dropped his score. When it got fixed and he got his new approval for his new mortgage, it's over $100,000 that he's going to save for the 30 years of that loan. So that's a lot, obviously, a dramatic amount of money.
Now, can you have too much credit? I've always heard that that's not possible, but is that true?
No, not really. I mean, I know way back in the day, they used to say, and I still have people think this way, like, oh, if I have too many credit cards, they probably won't want to give me a mortgage, thinking I'll get a loan and the next day I can rack up all that debt. But we like to see, look, if you have all of this available to you, you're keeping your balances low, you're paying them on time, it's healthy credit. I mean, I haven't seen a report where there's too many credit cards or too much credit. So I haven't seen that as a factor of dropping someone's score.
Okay. Well, what have you seen that's been common? Just giving our listeners a general encouragement on how to get their credit. What's been the common thread through most of your clients?
The common thread is most of the time not paying attention, just totally not paying attention, and also not knowing what is going to report. Like there's new companies like a utility bill who will decide to start reporting. So let's say you never realized they were reporting and you always doubled your payments. And now all of a sudden, as of January, they made a new policy that they're going to start reporting. So, like, just not paying attention. I mean, that's the key factor of what most people call me about. You know, most of the time, people don't go out there, get credit, and not want to pay their bills. You know, something happens, maybe loss of a job, a divorce, a move. Something can happen. Their score can be affected in that way. But then just focus on your credit and rebuild. That's always my biggest case. Just know that time heals all wounds, even on your credit reports. So it will start improving if you focus on it. If you say, I'm going to lower those credit card balances. People don't even realize how, like, if they're over a certain mark, like how that can be affecting their score. So let me just mention, trying to keep those balances as low as possible can help your score. I like to see them 20% or below. I mean, really 10% would be great, but sometimes unrealistic. But if you can keep those balances low, you're going to see your credit score go up.
Okay. Now, just to make that practical for our listeners, so if you have a card that's $1,000, you don't, in a month's time, you don't want to have a balance that is over 200. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yes. If you could do that, if you could always think that's your limit, then you would be getting the most of that part of the score. And 30% of your FICO score is based on balances. So that's a big part of your score and a lot of times overlooked. And let me also say that a lot of people think, well, I use my credit card for everything, and at the end of the month I pay it off. So sometimes it goes up very close to the limit, but I pay it to zero every month. Well, it never shows zero. Not if you're paying it. When it gets reported on the credit report, it's always going to be reported the last statement balance. So even if you pay it to zero, it's just going to see that last statement balance. So if you get it in and it says, you owe $2,000, you pay it to zero, then you continue to start using it for the next month. When you get your next statement, whatever the balance is, it's going to show, not the zero. So that's something to also pay attention to. So it's okay to be using credit that way if you're not worried about your score. But if all of a sudden you say, I know in a few months I want to go for a new car, I know in a few months I want to go for a new mortgage, you're going to want to make sure that score is as high as possible.
Now you say the statement balance. So does that mean that there's a different date, like what we get on our credit bills, the amount due and the due date? Is it different from the statement? You said the statement balance. That's the invoice.
Yeah. So when you get that in the mail, that invoice saying, okay, the payment's due on November 15th, but it shows your balance is $2,000. your minimum payment's $100 or whatever it may be. That balance on that invoice, that's what is considered the statement balance. That's the balance that gets reported to the credit bureau. And every single month, just like when you get your invoice in the mail, that same amount that's showing the entire statement balance, that's what's getting reported to the credit bureau.
Okay. Wow. So there are a lot of tips and tricks. Anything else that you would share with our listeners as far as how to improve, rebuild, or even for those who may not even have credit? Because I know I come across a lot of people who don't even have credit. You know, they become fearful and they just don't do anything. How can that person start rebuilding?
Yeah, well, that is a great question, because don't be afraid of it. Credit is a great thing. If you have good credit, think about the free perks you can get. Like, I look at my rewards on my credit cards, and I save that money. I try to pick everybody can pick a reward that works for them. I like the money back. And so, like, that's free money as far as I'm concerned, because I'm using credit in a healthy way. So if a person is saying, I'm afraid of credit, what you want to do is build it where maybe you don't have a huge limit, but build it that you use it to start learning, because all of a sudden, let's say you don't need credit now. I would think someday you may need credit. Not a lot of us can afford to buy a house cash. We can't buy a car cash. So you need to be using credit cards as tools only to invest into your future. Use those credit cards and think of it as, it's not because I don't have the money to buy this item. I'm using it because I want to make sure in so many years when I want a house that I'm going to get the lowest rate I can get. So use the credit cards and tools, and we can get a secured credit card to start out on the credit report, as long as you make sure it's a major credit card company that's going to report to all three bureaus. You can get a store credit card. If hey, I do purchase, I do go to this store often, so I might as well get the discount and start building credit. And again, you have to look at it as an investment. Just so you know, I know I need oil in my home. So every time the oil delivery comes, I pay it with my credit card, not because I don't have the money, just that I know, okay, let me put that on my credit. I'm using that account, and then I pay it to zero. I use it in that way, and other people can use it in that way too. They know they have to pay their cell phone every month, or gas in their car, or whatever it may be. Say, let me put it on the credit card because I have to buy these things. It's not like I'm saying go into debt for your credit. Use it for things you're going to use anyway, and then just link it to your credit card, and then pay off the credit card.
Now I have a question. It comes from, as it pertains to the credit bureaus, why is it that you'll pull your report and you'll see three different numbers? Like one will be 7-something, one will be 6. Why is that? Do they calculate differently, or do they report different items?
That's a great question. Well, the three bureaus do not share information. So no matter what, you want to make sure you're looking at all three of your credit reports, and I highly suggest going to annualcreditreport.com, because you can go to that one website and you can get all three credit reports from one site. Now, because they don't share information, you may see different things on all three reports. But also know that there's hundreds of credit scores out there, probably thousands. So that's why you may say, well, I get one score of this, and you can go and get a different score with this credit card company, or look up your score for, another site, and it gives you a score. I could all of a sudden say, you know what, I'm a credit expert. Let me start giving people who come to me a credit score. The point is, those are really more educational. Because would anyone really care what score I gave them if a bank isn't buying that score? So the main thing, when you are wanting to know your score for lending purposes, 90% of lenders use your FICO score. It's my favorite 4-letter F word, and it's something to just always remember, FICO, F-I-C-O. If you pay attention to your FICO, basically, since 90% of lenders are looking at that score, that's the score you're going to want to pay attention to.
Now, before we get out of here, help us with our teenagers, because most of us weren't taught how to use credit. We didn't. I mean, most of us just fell into it and ended up with student loans and credit card debt. How would you, as an educated mother, how would you approach teaching a teenager how to use credit to their advantage?
Well, and it's funny you say that, because when my daughter turned 16 and she started driving, and so then she got a job at the local library, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to put a credit card in your name. I'm going to put you on as an authorized user. So what that meant is she was on my account, but I'm really financially responsible for it, but she could use it. So I said to her, I don't use this account, so when the bill comes in, that's your bill. So I want you to start paying attention to how to use credit. So now that you have a car, you have to pay for your gas, use this, but then know that a bill is coming in the mail. So every single month she would use her credit card, and then she'd put money aside when she would, she still to this day doesn't realize how she doesn't have to pay it in full every month, because I have her so brainwashed that, like, when the bill comes in, you have to pay what that bill is, because I've taught her that. So, like, she was using my account for years, and then once she went into college, I said, okay, now it's time to get your own credit. And, we started with a secured card for her, and then she got a store card, and just recently, again, she got another major credit card. And I will say she's graduating college this year, 21 years old, and her credit score right now is a 743. Now, what that means, I'm so proud of her. Again, she really uses credit in the healthiest way because of those lessons that I taught her, like use it, but know you have to pay it in full. Don't use it if you don't have the money. And so that's what she's been able to do. And let me tell you, as a parent, you know what the benefit is? I'm so happy she'll graduate college, and I'm thinking her next step is getting an apartment, and I don't want to co-sign. And so now I feel like I won't have to, because she has her own credit. It's if a landlord looks, it's not like she's going to graduate college and have no credit report. So it's very important to start teaching your teenagers. Very important.
Wow. Well, your latest book, Credit Makeover, after reviewing it, it seems like you really kind of set it up and lay it out for, I guess, women to really be able to get into it and practically be able to apply the principles you put into the book. Tell us a little bit about the book and how our listeners can purchase.
Yeah, well, one thing about credit, a lot of times it can be boring. So I put it as a credit makeover to make it a little more fun, so that women would pay attention and pick up the book. And you know what? I'm a New Yorker, so I try to make things simple and fast. I know we're all busy, so my book is really an easy read. The steps that I, suggest that you take, they're easy to incorporate into a day, really quickly, so you can see results really fast. And it just makes sense, So if you feel either you're not paying attention to your credit, you've had bad credit in the past, you have good credit, but you want great credit, grab a copy. It's on Amazon.com. It's the Credit Makeover. And it's just a fun way of looking at a boring topic. But we all need it. But we all need credit.
That's right. Okay, lastly, we've seen a lot of people that are now offering services, credit repair services. I don't know about my listeners, but I know I've seen it everywhere. Facebook, you've got all random people saying, hey, I can fix your credit. If an individual, I'm assuming, because I've had to do this in my lifetime, I did it myself, so I'm assuming that others can, but if you just want someone to do the services, what should individuals really look for? Because it's a very sensitive subject, and it's your pertinent, important information. What should they look for in a company or individual that is going to help them repair?
I would say really make sure, if you're dealing with a company that's going to do that you look into them. You find someone who else has used them, or the Better Business Bureau, check them out on there, and ask a lot of questions. Make sure you feel comfortable, because you are correct. You're giving them a lot of your information, so you want to make sure that it's a reputable company. And I understand it. Again, are there companies out there that definitely help people because some people don't have the time. Absolutely. But again, research it, maybe talk to someone else, talk to maybe someone at a bank, or again, the Better Business Bureau. Always a way to go for a reference.
Exactly. And listeners, please understand, if you get this book, I've reviewed it. There are a lot of resources in here for individuals who have small things that they can probably take care of themselves as far as they're fixing their credit report. She offers a lot of resources, not just the tips and tools, but she gives you different things to actually help you in that process. So it's a really, really great book to reference for credit rebuilding and credit repair. Well, Jeanne, if you have any last remarks, please share anything to encourage our listeners before we get out of here.
Well, just paying attention, and if you follow me, again, once you have credit education, it's yours to keep forever. So you're not paying someone, you're learning it, and then it can help you navigate not only today, but next year, the year after. So it's really important to stay on top of whether you're just going to read articles about credit, just healthy credit. That's my motto all the time. And you can definitely fit it in. And just definitely, if you're feeling bad today about your credit, you can definitely move it into a better direction. So don't worry about it. Don't beat yourself over it. And just start focusing on it today.
There you have it. Well, thank you so much, Jeanne, for joining me. We really appreciate the work that you're doing to help people rebuild their financial life because it's so important. Thank you so much. Well, this has been the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. I'm your host, Cornell Jermaine. Until next time, let your soul be made whole. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Build on Beauty podcast. For more information about our host, please visit cornelljermaine.com.